and come to a seated position. Close your eyes and connect to your breath. Well, work today, I thought it might be appropriate to work with the fifth yama. There are these niyamas and yamas in the yoga teachings, and they're kind of guidelines to live by. And this one is called aparigraha. And I always remember graha thinks of grab, so it's like non-attachment or non-grasping. And just breathe into that. So the first thing we want to do is soften and open and feel a sense of surrender. Surrender is different from giving up. So Dan, I think you need a little bit under your hips because you're reeling back to lengthen the spine. All right, so open this way and sit up on a little bit more height if you can. So like put your 2 blocks together and sit on the 2 blocks because your knees are like up near your armpits. Sorry. All right. And that will help relieve some of the issues in the knees. There you go. Now you see how you can lengthen up and get the shoulders right over the hips. Before it was leaning back a bit. So the shoulders right over the hips. So back to aparigraha, the non-grasping. So just notice your breath. Does it get stuck in any places as you deepen the breath? And you surrender in those places, soften in those places. The aparigraha is often translated as non-hoarding, but it's more accurate to interpret it as non-attachment. So this is where sometimes people get the idea that if you really practice yoga and Buddhism and all of those esoteric Eastern philosophies, it's meant to give everything away, to be the ascetic, to go to the mountaintop, to not want anything. And actually there are Christian sects that also believe that sort of the renunciate or denial practices. But that's not what we mean in Tantra yoga. What it means is things are fine. Buying things are fine. I mean, my gosh, we couldn't shop online during this time. How would we survive? It's when you start to believe that what you own is who you are, and that you start to grasp on to holding what you've got, not remembering that it's all floating, it's all just, it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's all mutable, it's all sort of soft and easy. So it's if you believe that your happiness depends on protecting these things, we get very protective of our stuff. And stuff is not just material things, but it's ideas, beliefs about others, beliefs about yourself. It's sort of a connection to time, like time has to rule what you're doing. And we've learned in this quarantine time, the slower time, is that we start to look at our lives a little differently, and that's a gift. It's a true gift to say, I could organize my days differently to benefit myself, to have more upliftment. And so the purpose of non-attachment, of surrendering, that's different from giving up. But surrendering is just realizing you cannot control other people. You cannot control what they think, what they feel, what they do. You only have dominion over yourself, agency over yourself. So in yoga, think about in yoga mat, where you begin to attach to doing a pose a certain way. Judging yourself in your poses is another way that we attach to some outcome of it. So you find, where can you surrender and find more depth, more meaning, more beauty in the pose? So when we practice non-attachment on and off the mat, you connect to your whole heart, and you recognize that your true nature is to have a sense of wellness, to be well, to be happy, to be free from suffering. In the Tao Te Ching, there's a quote, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be." When I let go of what I have, I receive what I need. Draw your palms together in front of the heart center. Take an inhale, exhale, cleansing breath. And inhale to Om. Om. Release the hands, flutter the eyes open, and come to hands and knees. Pad your knees as you wish. I'm a padder, so the knees like a little padding on them. And begin to round and arch the back. And this is really therapeutic, especially if your back is stiff, if it's tight, and so many people have been complaining of back issues. And I think some of it is that Jill and I have had a lot of conversations about this. Our home office is maybe not as ergonomic setup as your office is, or spending too much time on the couch, or maybe even gardening. You can make this bigger or smaller as you wish, going forward a little bit more back, or keep it level. You listen to your body, what's going on there. But making the hips move as much as possible. The head just follows the movement. The hips are tucking, and then the sits bones lift, shoulder blades slide on the back, heart lifts, head lifts, tailbone tuck. So it starts in the hips and follows through. Not just the head just follows. If your head feels dizzy, you're just doing a little too much. The next time you come through center, pause, tuck the toes, walk the hands back to the knees and sit on the heels with the toes tucked, otherwise known affectionately as toe torture. Breathe. So if this is intense, know that you need more practice. Another way, I call it Mary's adaptation, which is nice, is to place blocks under the knees. It just opens or another blanket or two under the knees. It just opens the pinch in the toes a bit more. Stretch the arms forward, pull the head of the arm bones back, shoulder blades on the back, turn the palms up, and come forward with the fingertips pointing towards the knees. Claw the floor and hug the elbows back towards your hips. Oh, it's like you're trying to bend your elbows, but they don't bend much. Stretching the inner wrist. This is really good for carpal tunnel. You don't lock the elbows forward, pull the elbows back, and then go back to your toe torture. So, torture one, torture the other, right? You release your attachment to the torture. I don't know how we do this, but let me know how that's working for you. Shake the hands, interlace the hands behind the back and open. Oh, get the shoulders open. And just tilt one way and then the other. And then stretch the arms forward, this time palms down. And this time you're not putting much weight on the hands and go right near the knees, just enough to stretch the top of the wrist. There's no weight. And micro bend your elbows. They want to bend out to the side. The elbows are trying to move back towards your hips. A little micro bend in the elbows. And release. One more toe torture. Shake the hands and come back to table. Tuck the toes of the right foot, slide it back. Connect xiphoid to tailbone. Xiphoid is the bottom tip of your sternum to tailbone. It's another way of pulling the ribs towards each other and the belly button in. Lift the right leg, stretch the right arm. Exhale, elbow to knee. Inhale, extend. Continue while I go crank up the AC. There'll be a lot of air moving through here. Oh, yes. Ice it down. And the next time you come through center, pause, place your hand down, but leave the leg up, and just lift from the inner edge of the right thigh. So the tendency is to lift up, not doggy at fire hydrant, but lifting from the inner edge of the right thigh moves up faster, the sole of the foot parallel with the ceiling. And release. Tuck the toes of the left foot, slide it back. Lift the left leg, engage xiphoid to tailbone, pull the belly button up and in, the bottom ribs move towards the hip bone. Stretch your opposite arm forward. Notice if you're throwing all your weight to the outer heel of a standing hand. Shift it more to the base of the index finger, base of the thumb. And then exhale, draw it in. Inhale, extend. Continue at your own pace with the exhale when you contract and the inhale when you expand. Extend and expand. Contract. Drawing in, not attaching to one part of the pose or the other, enjoying the whole ride. The next time you extend both the arm and the leg, pause, walk your knees apart, toes together, untuck the toes, shift your hips back towards your heels, and rest your forehead either on your hands, stacked hands, or on the edge of a block to relax the back of the neck. So a lot of times we tend to pinch the cervical spine. Those are the vertebrae right in the neck. By pinching it, lifting the chin too much. This helps us lengthen the back of the neck and soften between the shoulder blades. Inhale, come back up to table. Come into wide table, unstable table. Walk the hands a little bit in front, about a handprint distance in front of the hips, shoulders, and the knees about a handprint distance behind the hips. Tuck your toes and shift back into a crouch. The hips should not be able to go back to the heels if you're wide enough. Claw the floor with the hands, the fingers. Hug the thumbs towards each other as the baby fingers are pulling away, and then unfurl without shifting your shoulders forward. Walk your dog, bending one knee and then the other. Just notice what's going on in the body. Can you release your attachment to your suffering body? Can you release your attachment to whatever your chronic issues are? Walk your hands back to your toes, forward bend at the back of your mat towards the wall. Bend your knees so much that your ribs are on your thighs, and wrap your arms behind your thighs, holding either onto the elbows or the wrist or somewhere in between. And lift your belly button up and in. Exhale, go towards straight. You may not straighten. And if you end up pulling, letting go of your arms or pulling the ribs away from the thighs, then don't straighten as much. But hug in with the shins, hug towards each other, inner heels hug towards each other, inner thighs move back and apart. Tailbone lengthens down towards the heels. As the belly button pulls up and in, the heart moves closer towards the toes. Next, inhale, halfway up, hands on your hips. Soften your knees, shrug your shoulders, lift the head of the arm bones. And on your next inhale, use the legs to hinge up, rise up. Oh my gosh, we're up. All right, let's get ready. Step to the top of your mat, please. Stay hydrated. Feet parallel. So we pay attention to little things in this class, because a lot of times we all have a natural turnout, and so turning parallel feels pigeon-toed, it feels wrong. We get used to it. Lift all 10 toes. Connect with the four corners of the feet, and the four corners of the feet are the ball of the foot nearest the big toe. Push that down. Notice what has to activate up your legs. Energetically lift your inner arch and then tack down the inner heel. Notice what has to engage there, the inner thighs, inner knees. Keep that, and notice the fingers are starting to act up, so see if you can soften those. From the inner heel, fan out to the ball of the foot nearest the baby toe. The toes are still up, although they want to go down now. And then energetically lift your outer arch. In my foot, it's in my mind, because the outer arch won't lift that much. And tack the outer heel down. Now notice the legs are working here. Keep that. Micro bend your knees, so press the shins forward and hug your heels towards each other isometrically, like they won't move, but you feel like you're trying to. Notice what's going on there. Then a couple of more things, keeping all of that, inner thighs back, tailbone down. And as the tailbone goes down, you lengthen the legs without locking the knees. Then the toes can lengthen on the floor and press down. Keep the legs strong. As you rise up, inhale, exhale, bow forward. Inhale, halfway up, walk your fingertips up your shins, soften the knees, don't press back into the knee joint. Next exhale, bow. Inhale, extend. Exhale, bow. One more. Inhale, extend. Exhale, bow deeply. Pull your belly button up and in and bow deeply. Next, inhale, fingertips on either side of your feet. Bend your knees. Reach your right leg back, straight leg lunge. Bow and scrape a little bit. You can use blocks on either side, but here's the trick. No weight on your hands. So blocks on either side is nice because it gives you a little more upliftment. And we're looking, right, for upliftment. Why would we want, what's the opposite? Undownment or redownment. Let's make up a word. You know how I love to make up words. I play a lot with a 6-year-old granddaughter, so we make up lots of words. Oh. And then the next time you're in lunge, pause. You can use the blocks. There's 2 versions to this. It's either standing split or warrior 3. Step your back foot up a little bit to shift all your weight on your front foot. Shift forward either into where the spine and the leg are parallel, the head's in line with the spine, or come into full standing split. Oh. Then hug the outer left hip in, your standing leg, hug it in as to make room to draw your right leg in, maybe without bending it. Hands on your hips on your next inhale. Take a breath, pause here. Next inhale, hinge from the hips to rise up. Exhale, release. Side B. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, bow forward. Inhale, prepare. Step your left leg back, straight leg lunge. Again, using blocks here is nice because even though I might be able to touch the floor, I might have to round and hunch the shoulders to do that. Why? Why bother? Make it elegant. Then straighten, bend. So straighten the front leg, bend the back. Bend the front, straighten the back. You're going back and forth from lunge to some sort of hyper attenuated Elizabethan bow, milady, right? Too much of an English major going on here. Okay, light on the fingertips. Notice how much we want to like, oh, put all the weight there. But even play, some of you are working with balance. Just rest your hands or airplane balance. And then get ready to step forward. Pop the back foot up a little bit to shift all the weight onto the front leg. Hug the outer right hip in, stabilize the leg, and lift up either into warrior 3, where the hands are lightly on blocks and the spine and the leg are parallel, or come into full, almost standing split. Breathe. Again, as you pull the left leg in, the tendency is to bend it. See if you can keep the left leg, the lifted leg straight. Hug your outer standing leg, hip in. Pull the left leg in for a landing without bending. Hands on your hips. Shrug your shoulders, lift the head of the arm bones, and rise up. Oh, and release. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, bow forward. Inhale, prepare. Step your right leg back, straight leg lunge. Scissor the legs. So here's where you want to be sure that the feet are hip width apart, not on a tightrope. And the back leg is back far enough that the heel is off the floor. So Kristen, you can walk your blocks back closer to the front foot. Yeah, get the blanket out of the way. Nice wide lunge. Scissor the legs. That means pretend you're in roller skates and you don't want to do the split, so you hug to the midline. Bring the hands to the front thigh. Breathe. Stretch the right arm up. So the back leg arm goes up. The left arm goes up. Left hand grabs the right wrist and you arc to the left. Breathe. Inhale back to center, change the grab, and arc to the other side. The legs are stable and strong. Then you have room to release the upper body. Inhale, back up. Interlace the hands behind the back. Shrug the shoulders, move the head of the arm bones back, scissor the legs like crazy, inner thighs move back, tailbone down, and then from the core of the pelvis, send the energy down through the legs, and from the core of the pelvis out through the crown of the head. Curl back, and next, exhale, release. Step back, downward facing dog. Can always rest in child's pose in between. Shift forward, plank pose. Claw the floor, hug the shoulder blades on your back. Bend your knees in towards the hands, but they just hover over the floor. You can even walk your feet in a tiny bit. Hips are high, so you're in plank position. Kneeling, almost kneeling plank position. So pull the knees down. It's a deep core work. Hug in. Yeah. Let's hear the word uncle or auntie, one or the other. And release all the way to the floor. That was mean. Oh, rest your forehead on your hands. What? Oh yeah, right. We'll do that other side and then I'll do that. Okay. In yoga, we breathe through the nose. So if you're working so hard that you cannot breathe through the nose, or if you're stuffed up, that's an issue. But breathe through the nose, it filters it better. Okay, one side, more side. Plant your hands. Lengthen the legs behind you, tuck your toes, shrug your shoulders, lift the head of the arm bones into a baby cobra or an up dog, and then exhale, down dog. Enjoy dog for a moment. Soften your knees. Hug your heels isometrically towards each other, like you're squeezing a block. They don't move towards each other, but they hug towards each other. Inner thighs move back and apart, tailbone lengthens. Oh, and just extend. Next, inhale, step your right leg forward. You can either lower both knees and haul the right leg up, or step it through, then lift the back leg. Scissor the legs, feet are on railroad tracks, not tightrope, and come with the hands to the front thigh. Again, keep scissoring the legs. You feel the inner thighs working here. Check your front knee that it's not going forward of your ankle. If it goes forward of your ankle, that tells me you can move your back leg back a little bit and live a little more dangerously. George, inner rotate your back leg because the heel's almost coming down. That's classic warrior one. We're doing a warrior one lunge. Nice. Hands on the hips. Stretch your left arm up. Stretch your right arm up. Right hand grabs the left wrist and tilt to your right. Oh. And notice the wavering, the fluctuation here, right? Inhale, come back to center. Change the grab and arc to the left. The other side, even if you went to the right first or the left first, doesn't matter. Inhale, release, exhale, step back, downward facing dog. Walk your hands back to your toes. Forward bend at the back of your mat. Hands on your hips. Soften the knees, strengthen the legs, shrug the shoulders, lift the head of the arm bones, come up halfway as you hinge from the hips to come to standing. So that will help the back more than anything. You may have been taught to roll down, roll up. It's really not good on the back unless you have abs of steel. I'd say Layla is probably the only one I would let do that because I know what her abs are like, but no one else, including me, would I suggest rolling down because you have to have so much core strength. Otherwise, you just jam your vertebrae against each other as they squeeze down. So you always want to hinge to keep the natural curve of the spine. Yes, Chris, yeah, you feel that how the legs work and then you're not using your back. But this, the back has to take it because the core for most of us is not strong enough to take it. All right, take a block. A nice ice creamy middle, right? A center, an ice creamy center. All right, this is crazy tree. So when we, I use this as I use anything as a metaphor, but this is definitely a metaphor for me for these times, because everything's uncertain. We don't know from day to day. So step up with your left foot onto the block. Yeah, you can face me, George, that's fine. And your right toes can still be on the floor. Pay attention to your standing leg. Notice if you're rocking to one side of the foot or the other. See if you can distribute the weight along the four corners of that foot. The right toes may still be on the floor. Hands on the hips. Push down with your hips to push down into the earth and press up with your foot so that you're trying to press up into your hands. The hands are pushing down. It's an energetic move. I can't really see it except that you all grow taller. Take a breath, and from there, then the right toes are getting even lighter. Turn the right knee out to the side and either place the foot on the ankle or the calf, not on the knee joint, or all the way up. I find that kind of challenge. I can do that usually on the hard floor, but you notice the fluctuations, right? So you get creative, right? You do creative things. If it works for you to grow your branches, and your branches might blow in the wind. So you just play with it. Press the foot into the leg into the foot. So they're pressing equally. You lose that midline and you start to lose your strength. Keep your focus, keep your breath, and then bend the arms in cactus pose and curl back into a back bend, gazing up at the ceiling. If that doesn't throw your balance off, close your eyes and then creatively dismount. Oh, you'll notice a standing leg gets a bigger workout on the block because it's not steady. There's a fluctuation. Now, if you had cork or wood blocks, this wouldn't work so much. You'd need to, what you can do at home is to put maybe a couple of folded towels together so you're lifted a bit, but you'd rock a lot. So that would be, have a wall handy on that one, but that would be really good training. Side B, step it up. So first, the left toes are on the floor. They're just keeping your balance. You don't have to worry about it. If the left toes help you, that's fine. You don't want to hike that hip up. There's no need for it to come away from the floor right now. Pay attention to your standing leg, the right leg. So connect with the four corners of the feet. And notice, we have a tendency to rock to the outer edge or the back edge, or the less likely the front edge and less likely the inner edge, but it could happen. And then hug your outer standing leg hip in, your outer right hip in, and lengthen that same action if you're pushing down from the top of the hips and the legs pushing up against it. So you grow longer, the left toes start to come away from the floor naturally, not because you flex them, they just come away. Turn the left knee out and put the foot on the ankle, press the foot together, and try pressing the hands together just like the foot and the leg go. And yes, I call this a creative dance. So you come in and out of it and stretch the arms up. So adults get a little attached to how this is supposed to look and what's supposed to happen. And I guarantee you, when I've taught it to children, all they do is giggle and they try to fall out of it. They think it's funny to do crazy things. Next, inhale, release, shake off. And then stand on terra firma. A little bit firmer. Yeah, it really works the hip flexors there, because let's do bridge. I'm a little crazy, jumping the gun. Let's do tree one more time, but on terra firma, and just see what the difference is, compare it. So shift your weight to your left foot, correct? Is that the first side? Turn the right foot out, hug. So the tendency is for us to collapse into the standing leg hip. I'm exaggerating, but that's essentially the direction we go. Hug the outer hip in. You have to pull up, especially from the inner edge, from the inner heel and inner big toe mound up to the core of the pelvis. Then press the hands together, and the same energy, press the foot into the leg, somewhere on the ankle, the leg just not on the knee joint. And press the standing leg into the foot and the foot into the standing leg. Inner thighs move back, tailbone down. You see how much more stable you are because the floor's not moving as much. Now you just see the fluctuation of your own foot. Arc back, bend the arms, come back into a cactus pose, curl back. And if you want, close your eyes. If you say, no, don't, release, shake off. All right, side B, second verse. All right, stand, hug in, turn the left toes out, hug the outer standing leg hip in, your outer right hip in, press the foot to the leg and the leg to the foot, just as you do your hands. So one hand doesn't win. So you're not pressing harder with the foot or harder with the leg. You wouldn't be balanced if you did. Inner thighs move back, tailbone down. And from the core of the pelvis, send the energy down through the standing leg, and then from the core of the pelvis out through the fingertips, crown of the head. Curl back. Whee. And release. Shake off. All right. Slide your way to the floor, all the way to your belly. Oh. And just rest a moment. Make a pillow with your hands. Rest your forehead so your face doesn't smash into the mat. And windshield wiper your legs back and forth a bit. And here's where I like to use a blanket. I'm going to do the crawling salamander. So we come up to your forearms. So George, how about, do you mind flipping around so your head's facing me, then you don't have to look back over the shoulder. Look at him. I love that you put you on a little spinner and with just like a lazy Susan. There you go. All right, forearms down. Draw your left knee up, and I like to pat it on a blanket, not required. For sure does feel good. Flex the foot so you have a right angle at your ankle, a right angle at your knee, and a right angle at the hip. So even though you might be able to pull the hip up higher, don't. Just because you can doesn't mean it's always a good idea. All right, hug, press the forearms into the earth. Hug an imaginary block between your elbows. And do the same thing with your legs. So you're hugging the legs to the midline, like I'm trying to pull it in, but it's not gonna move in. It's isometric. Inner thighs lift towards the ceiling, tailbone lengthens. And then from the core of the pelvis, the straight leg foot, the right foot can either be tucked or straight. I kind of like it tucked. It gives me more strength and keeps the kneecap off the floor, but you can do either as long as the leg is still engaged. It's not taking a nap. As you press the forearms into the earth, isometrically pull the elbows back towards the hips and stretch the collarbones forward. Oh, nice. So cross-grain twist, the left arm is 45 degrees across, perch up on the right fingertips and turn to the right. Some of you may be happy here, so you're turning away from the bent leg towards the straight leg side. And then some of you may be able to slide the left arm all the way under you. I like a block on the head because I don't want the head to hang off the shoulder. And you can come into, oh, a big deep twist here. Maybe, maybe not. There you go. Yeah. The right hand does whatever it wants to. It can help you. You can stretch it overhead. You can stretch it. That's good if it feels all right. You're good, Debbie. No, you're good. You're perfect. Yeah. The head can either turn or face down, and just notice all the places where you're feeling it. And enjoy it. So where can you let go? There's an important difference between giving up and letting go. Ooh. Inhale your way back to center. Straighten both legs out. Rest your forehead on your hands. Notice the difference between the two sides. You can either wiggle your hips or bend your knees and windshield wiper the legs to release anything that may have gone on in your hip. And get ready for side B. Come up onto your forearms. Bring your right leg then up 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees. So you don't want the heel close to the straight leg. You want it to be right under the knee, right in line with the knee. And then spin the ribs a little bit back to the right. So you square the shoulders towards the short edge of the mat. Ooh. See what happens if you think about moving your inner thighs up towards the ceiling and apart, then lengthen the tailbone into that space. It should take any pinch out of the back. If it doesn't, you just come down a little lower with your upper body. And breathe here. Notice what needs a stretch. Pretty gentle, and yet we stay long enough, we start to feel things. And then the twist. This side twist may be perched up this way, so you're on your right forearm, and you're pressing into your left hand, turning towards your left, turning towards your straight leg side. Yeah, so you can walk this hand, the left hand as far away from you as you might need to. There you go. This is where you may say, I'm holding this, I'm good, this is good. So are you attached to going further, or are you okay here? I find this side is way tighter for me. Oh, so I have to pull the block up a little higher because the shoulder doesn't come down quite as low. Oh, so if you want to do the double whammy twist, do it. Otherwise, hold what you got. So how do you know how far I should go? Well, if you go deep into it and you can't breathe, or you start to think evil things about the yoga teacher, back up. And work it where you need to work it. Nice. Release back to your belly. Wiggle your hips or windshield wiper the legs. Support your head, your forehead on your hands so your face doesn't smash. And then place your hands back sort of at shoulder height, a little bit. The fingertips are sort of the shoulder height. Hands are back by towards the ribs. Lengthen the legs long behind you. Inner rotate the thighs towards the ceiling, and the tailbone lengthens. It gives you want curve first and then length. That protects the back. Bend the knees, just right angles again, like you're holding a plate tray on your feet. So your feet are parallel with the ceiling. Hands are back by your chest. You're like you're coming up into a cobra. Shrug the shoulders towards your ears. Lift the head of the arm bones towards the sky. And inhale, press down a little bit with hands, pull back with the hands, and lift the upper body. If you feel this in the lower back, it means you've lost your core. So you have to come down a little lower, more length of the tailbone, and hug a real or imaginary block between your knees. So that's also a nice sort of therapeutic to place a block between the knees. It helps you really strengthen the legs. And then you can stop at any time, bus stop yoga. Lift your knees just a hair, even thinking about lifting off the floor. So the feet are still towards the ceiling. Lift your hands off the floor. Shrug the shoulders, lift the head of the arm bones, and hover here. Keep squeezing the block, real or imaginary, between your knees. And keep lifting, pressing up. Exhale, release. Shake it off. All right, that's that one you can do again, or we can do full bow, because some people reaching back and taking hold of their, so George, you want to bend your knees a little bit more to do that. Bend the knees, bend the knees, bend the knees a little bit more. Flex the feet now. Yeah, well, no, not too much. There you go. Oh, there you go. Good. There you go. And lift your elbows. So it's not so much this. Look, George, it's not so much this, it's this. Ah, yeah. And release. So you can do that, or some of you are working with bow pose. This one's actually easier than the first one, but it might get into your knees or your back more. So whatever you're doing, you squeeze a real or imaginary block between your knees. Inner thighs move towards the ceiling. Tailbone lengthens, lengthen the low back like crazy. As you kick feet back into the hands into the feet, lift up, or do the hover. Oh, I know, right? And release. Press back, child's pose. Knees apart, toes together. Knees wide, wide, wide apart. Oh, Let your ice cream center just settle between the thighs there. Enjoy it. So non-attachment is not about not caring. It's about not trying to get other people to care the same way you do. That's a hard one. It doesn't mean you don't try to convince people, but you have to let go essentially of the result. People are going to do, feel, think what they're going to think. The best thing we have is to model, to clean up. I always say I got to pick my own weeds in my own garden before I start picking in other people's. I have plenty to work on myself before I start being hypercritical of others. Inhale, come to table, and turn to flip over to lie on your back. Have a block near you. And roll all the way on your back, knees bent. The feet towards the center of the room. Yep, good. Oh man, does the floor feel good or what? Just surrender into that. Maybe I'm the only one, but I tend to just say, feels good, next thing, as opposed to like, feels good. Just enjoy it. Okay, take the block, and on the middle level, you'll place it between your shins. So it's like halfway between your knees and your ankles. If it's too narrow, you have to be too close. If it's too wide, kind of depends on your hips, whatever feels good, either medium or wide. The arms in robot arms, it means you're bending at the elbows, the fingertips are stretching towards the ceiling, palms facing each other like a robot. Hug the elbows in close, and as you push down into the elbows, the upper arms, lift your shoulder blades a little bit, snuggle them underneath you, and then tack the head of the arm bones back down to the floor. So the low back and maybe part of the upper back is off the floor, just hovering off the floor. May still be touching, but it's not as heavily weighted. Connect with the four corners of the feet. Hug the block with your shins. Inner thighs move towards the heels, and the tailbone lengthens towards the heels, xiphoid to tailbone to engage the core. On your next inhale, push into your feet and your elbows and lift your hips just a little bit. Then snuggle your shoulder blades back underneath you more to lift your chest. Notice here whether if you're tucking your chin, you see how it changes the voice. Lift the chin so it's sort of perpendicular to the floor, neither pointing towards the wall or towards your sternum. Then again, press down through the soles of the feet, squeeze the block, inner thighs move down towards the floor, tailbone lengthens towards the knees, and lift the hips a little more, snuggle the shoulder blades underneath you. You can hold here what you've got. If you start to feel this in your low back, you've lost your tailbone length. You've lost the legs, so reset. Some of you may be working to where you can snuggle the shoulders all the way more underneath you and interlace the hands and stretch the arms long underneath you. And hold here, nice bridge. Good dog. On your next exhale, release. Move the block out between and do a little easy windshield wiper back and forth. So now we'll do sort of half happy baby, or otherwise known as lunge on your back, and pigeon pose on your back, otherwise known as baby cradle. So follow along. But here's the thing, as with your knees bent, feet on the floor, as you gently, not a heavy duty thing, but press the feet into the earth and isometrically pull them back towards your hips. And you'll notice your low back curves a little off the floor, which it should. Then into that space, the tailbone lengthens and curls slightly forward, and the xiphoid process, bottom tip of the sternum, moves towards the tailbone. Shoulder blades under the back. Draw your right knee in towards your right armpit and open it up 90 degrees. Now you'll notice the right side waistline goes down to the floor. See if you can keep it off. You can either hold under, hold the under the thigh, or the arm for full half-happy baby, the arms on the inside of the right knee, holding the baby toe side of the foot. The inner knee and the arm press against each other. And notice, see if you can get your low back curve back on the right side. You do that by pushing the foot into your hand, or if you're holding behind the thigh, push the thigh up into the arm so you can get a little bit of a low back curve, and have your weight evenly on both sides of your sacrum. The left knee is pointing straight up. It's not taking a vacation off to the left. Next, on your next inhale, draw the shin across the body and shovel scoop under. So both hands come in to the outside of the calf. Both hands shovel in on the outside of the calf, and the right elbow can snuggle into the inner thigh and press the inner thigh away from your belly. The left hand's drawing the right heel up towards your shoulders, your left shoulder in particular. If you want a little more stretch, you can straighten the bent leg, the non-working leg, and make it a working leg. Straighten it, flex the foot, and press the inner edge of the left leg towards the floor. There's even a deeper hold that's full half-happy baby, where the sole of the foot goes into the elbow, and you reach your round. Stops me talking pretty quickly. And enjoy. This is a nice way to do pigeon, especially if you have some knee problems. And also it gives you good feedback on your back. So if your back waist is completely smashed into the floor, it means you're flattening the back, and that's going against the natural curve. And that can cause discomfort. Release, stretch both legs long, stretch the arms overhead, and notice the difference between the two sides. One leg feels way longer and closer to the floor. Bend both knees. Start over. Draw your left knee towards your left armpit. So you're not right towards your chest, but it's a little off to the side. Open it up into a right angle like you were doing a lunge upside down. Either hold in behind the thigh, so pull it in, or thread the arm on the inside of the left knee, hand holds the outside, the baby toe side of the foot. Hug the knee into the arm presses against the knee if you're holding full half-happy baby. And press the foot up into the hand to get a little bit more of your natural low back curve on that side. It's naturally going to come closer to the floor, but you're resisting it to support the back. And then cross your shin over and shovel scoop under. So your hands reach the outside of the shin, the left elbow snuggles into the inner left thigh, pushes the left thigh away as the right hand pulls the heel closer to the right shoulder. See if you can get your low back curve. So the tendency to collapse the back waist into the floor is strong within us. Tilt your sits bones down towards your heels to let the back waist have some air. You can straighten the right leg if you wish, or take a deeper hold. Keep the shoulders, the chest, the jaw, the neck soft. On your next inhale, release, stretch it all out. Hopefully you're fairly even, more even than you were. Bend your knees, feet are mat width apart. That means they're extra wide, arms in a T position. Drop the knees over to the right, keep the feet where they are, don't move the feet. Then you can pick up the right heel of the foot and put it to the outside of the left knee for a little more cantilevered stretch, sort of stretch. And then the left arm can stretch towards the wall overhead. Nice big stretch along the left side. Inhale, back up to center. Feet again, mat width apart. That's the secret sauce. If the feet come too close together, you lose the ability to get deeper into the side stretch. Keep the feet where they are, flex the feet, drop the knees over to the left. The left foot can lift and tuck, hook the outside of the right knee, just to give you a little bit of counterweight there. Not required. If it hurts the knee, don't do it. Keep both feet flexed so the knees are protected, and stretch the right arm along the floor overhead. And enjoy, breathe into that whole right side body stretch. And inhale your way back to center. Hug your knees into your chest. Oh. Maybe do a few circles over the sacrum. And any other movements you want to do before final relaxation. Final relaxation, support yourself in any way you want. You can slide some blankets under your knees, pull a blanket over on top of you. So typically it's on your back, shoulder blades snug on your back, and then release any attachment to where your shoulder blades are. Arms at your side, palms up. How close are yes, I will give them, thank you. How close or far apart your arms are to your body depends on how quickly you want to cool off. So the closer they are to the body, the more you'll hold in heat. The farther away, the faster you'll cool off. Palms are up, that helps you get the shoulder blades on the back. And also palms up for me symbolizes a receptivity to the practice, to the surrender of our lives. You follow your breath. As thoughts come up, and they will, you choose not to jump on that thought train. You choose not to follow the story of your thoughts. You choose to watch them, kind of like a curious cat, and they'll float away. They'll just dissolve, and another thought will pop up in its place. And again, you do the same thing. You choose not to follow it. You don't add to the story. You just watch, and it will eventually fade away, only to have another thought pop up again. And you do this over and over and over. It's like teaching a puppy to stay. It stays for a little bit, it wanders off. You pick it back up, put it down, stay, stays for a moment, wanders off. Our goal is to lengthen the space of staying. To lengthen the space between thoughts. begin to deepen your breath. As the breath deepens, bring gentle movement to your fingers and toes, hands and feet, stretching your arms and legs, moving the head side to side, maybe stretching the face, yawning to stretch the face. And then as you're ready, draw your knees into your chest and roll to your side and rest there for a few moments, curled up on your side. Again, in no hurry to pop up into the rest of your day, even if you are in a little bit of a hurry. Take a moment to be here now in the present. Holding on is believing that there's only a past. Letting go is knowing that there's a future. And rolling a little bit more towards the floor, use the strength of your arms to press yourself up to a seated position and sit well, sitting on a block, bolsters, blankets, chair. So the back can be long, the inner thighs move towards the floor, tailbone lengthens. And there's an effortlessness in sitting this way. So if you start to effort, the inner groin the hips start to clench, or the neck hurts or the back hurts, it means you're out of alignment. So there is an effortlessness to being aligned. It's why we work so hard on alignment. Because then we do meet life with a sense of sweet surrender, embracing it, loving every minute of it, doing all we can to make it better, and then surrender. Draw the palms together in front of the heart center. We say the Sanskrit word namaste, that means I honor the light in myself, I honor the light in you and all beings and all things throughout the universe. Namaste.